Again. All right, hello everyone. So today what we're going to do, we're going to go over um, texturing and UVing the can. So uh, hopefully you remember from last class that UV is simply another coordinate plane. So U is our horizontal axis, V is our vertical axis. So instead of doing X and Y, because X and Y is in relationship to this perspective camera here, that we add just new letters in order to differentiate this 3D coordinate plane versus this 2D one that will allow us to flatten our 3D object into a 2D image in order to export it as a wireframe of a UV snapshot to be able to color and have a guideline of map to color on. So what we're going to do, we're going to add a box. Make sure to create a new project folder if you haven't already done so for this assignment. So File, Project Window. So right now this is tutorial 2, so I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click New where it says New. And when I do that, it'll say New Project, so I will give it a name. Last name, first name, tutorial 3. Double check the location. I save mine on the desktop because it's easy to access. I'm going to go to desktop, click there, and I'll hit select. Once I do that, I'll hit accept, huzzah, and then I'm going to minimize this Maya window for 1 second. On Canvas, you should have already downloaded and extracted or uncompressed the zip file that says tutorial 3 sample files. Um, you'll copy these images, so I'll right click, select them all, copy, and I'll minimize this tab now. And this is the folder that I just made in Maya. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to paste this into source images just to have them all available as resource images. Okay, so I don't need this file anymore or folder. I'm going to minimize this, and so this is where I'm working in. So now I have this box. I'll press F to frame. Oh no, the rainbow spinning wheel of doom. Let's see. I wish I can pause. Oh, I can pause. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to add a box. Okay, here we go. I'm going to switch my workspace to UV editing. So up here where it says workspace, UV editing. So that way I have my UV editor, which is on the right hand side here, this 2D coordinate plane. And then on my left hand side, I have the 3D camera, so I know what I'm doing. So here we have a basic shell. So it's a set of UVs that are sewn together. And again, as a reminder, my UVs are points that I see in 3D space here that are translated to where they are in 2D space. So basically, they take the values of where the vertices are in 3D space and they move them into 2D space. So notice when I click on, if I drag select these this corner here, you'll notice actually these two dots are highlighted because there are actually two UVs in the same, existing in the same space in the 3D camera. However, they exist in two different places in the 2D coordinate plane, so that UV editor. Reason being is that this allows us as a way to slice and cut open this 3D form that we have on the left hand side and be able to unfold it and see it as a 2D image. And hopefully we remember this from the FSA or any of our standardized math tests that we have taken of what a cube looks like as a 2D image. Again, 6 faces, all of that. So now what I'm going to do, because we're going to practice making planar projections, because this is the basic way of learning to do this, learning the building blocks, and then we can learn other techniques too afterwards that will help um, speed up the process with more complex images. But this is a starting point. This is the easiest way to learn. Um, so, and the easiest shape to learn is this 3D cube. So we're going to delete in shell mode. So I'm going to hold down my right mouse button here in the editor, select it, delete. Okay, you'll notice nothing gets deleted in my 3D camera. It's just deleting placement in the UV editor. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the face, one face at a time, and I'm going to make a planar projection. So what I'm going to do, select the face, I'm going to go up here to the UV tab. I'm going to click on the option box for planar. So I'm going to make a planar projection. So what's going to happen is it's going to take a photograph of my shell here, or my faces, and make a shell, so a set of UVs, based off of the axis that I select. So it's going to project from whatever axis I pick. So in this case, I'm going to click on X. I'm going to hit apply, not project, because project will close out the window, and I want to keep this open. It's going to make my workspace and workflow way easier. I'm going to hit apply, boom. And in this case, it fills up the whole unit of my bounding box here. So to this 1-to-1 ratio of my editor. I'm going to move it out of the way. I'm going to rotate my camera and do the opposite side. This is also X because it's any direction that it's any direction that is pointing towards the camera. So I have Y going up, Z going to the right, and so what color is missing in my 3D camera? Red, which is X. Hopefully we have this memorized because I said to memorize this by week 2, right? I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to move it out of the way. Then I'm going to do the other side. Now I know if I select this side, what? I see green, I see red, but I don't see blue as an arrow. I'm going to hit Z because I know Z is going towards the camera here. So I'll hit apply and move it out of the way. Let's say if I did select the wrong axis, so I'll select the opposite face here that I haven't done. I'll choose X by mistake. I'll hit apply. I know it's not the correct axis because I should see the shape that I see in my 3D camera should be roughly the shape that I see in my editor. And because I don't, that's how I know it's the wrong axis. So it's still selected, so what I can do is just change to a different axis. I'll click Z, apply, boom, done. Now do the last set of faces. And if you're ever, especially when you start having a more complex object, if you're ever unsure of what you have done or not done, I'll drag select my shells in my editor and I'll look at what's highlighted in my 3D camera. So I see the bottom and the top are not done. So I'll select the top in face mode because I deleted the shells for top and bottom. I'll select the face, switch it to Y, apply, move it out of the way. I'll go to the bottom, select it, apply, move it out of the way. Alrighty. So next what I'm going to do, because we saw that object or the shells from before in one set of shells, so one unit, it's kind of easiest to kind of do that for something like this because one, it's very straight edges, there's no curves, so it makes it easier to sew those areas. So I'm going to select one edge in my editor. Actually, lies. Because actually there's going to be some flipping that needs to be done. So what I'm going to do before I do any sewing, I'm going to close this window. I don't need it any longer. I'm going to turn this off or deselect my attribute editor just so you can see this a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look to view in the editor tab and I'll click on shaded. And what this will do, it will show me which shells need to be flipped. So red means that they're upside down, and blue means that they're right side up. And again, part of this is because I'm looking up to Y when the Y camera is looking this way, right? So I need to flip it. So I'm going to select these 3 red shells. They're already selected. I'm going to go to modify and then flip. And there they are. So now I'll just move them out. So now with that, I'm going to select an edge. And you'll see now these two are highlighted, so these will connect together. Shift, hold down my right key, move and sew. What? Another way you can do it is in the cut and sew tab, you can detach this window and tab, select the next edge, move and sew. I'll select this edge, move and sew. Now select this edge, move and sew. And then this edge, move and sew. So now I have this shell, it's one unit. So anything that is blue as an edge means that they're sewn together. The white edge means that they're cut and split at that edge line, meaning these two edges share the same space in the 3D camera, but not in 2D space. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to scale this down. I'm going to select the shell, scale it down to where it fits. I don't know if I have I don't have a marker, but hopefully, because I didn't do this in Zoom, but hopefully you can see where my mouse is and dragging. There's this one-to-one, let me move this out of the way, this one-to-one grid box. Right now, with Maya and with learning to UV, we're going to keep things to that one-to-one grid box because it's going to make your life easier. And we'll talk more about it as we keep going with this. So I'm going to scale this down the center, meaning I'm scaling width and height at the same time. So down that center cube. And I'm not going to go past the edge of this grid line. So this bold dark gray line here, and this bold dark gray line, and then where we see red and green, this is should be in the bottom left corner of our shell. So I'm going to go as far out as I can without passing that grid line. And that's pretty good. And then with this shell selected, I'm going to create a UV snapshot. So I'm going to hit on the camera icon that you see here. If you don't see it there, you can go to, let's go to Image, and you'll see UV snapshot at the very bottom tab. Boom. When this pops up, please make sure that your file name and the location of this file is under your tutorial 3 project folder that you've made in Maya. It's going to be in the Images tab, and I'm going to give it a new name. I'm going to click on Browse. I'm going to change the file name to Box UV Snapshot. I'll hit Save. 2048 by 2048 is a perfect size. Make sure that they're the same values. We want the one-to-one ratio because this is a square as well. So we need the same ratio in order for this to work. Make sure your image format is a PNG. I keep my edge color as black, and then I'll hit Apply and Close. Alright, so now I'll open this up in Photoshop. I think I have Photoshop open already. So what I'll do, I'm going to click on Open. Let me minimize this now. Actually, let me save my scene real quick, just so, because Maya crashed when I started recording before. Save scene. Last name, even though it's a box and I can just like redo this multiple times. Tutorial 3, save as. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to click on File, Open in Photoshop. Open. Minimize this. And then, sorry, the window has frozen now, so I'll bring it over once I'm Image, Open. Okay, so now that I have that, boom. Make sure you make your snapshot, don't move your shells in the UV editor, and don't move your shells here in Photoshop. So, name the layer, double click on where it says layer 1, UV layer, lock it, put it in your pocket. I'm going to add a new layer where it says plus down here at the bottom. I'm going to drag it underneath, give this a name, background layer. Switch to, because I had like the crop open for some reason. Um, I'm going to have the bucket tool on. Sometimes your bucket tool might not be showing where you'll see the gradient tool or your 3D material drop. Hold down where you see those icons, down where you see the little arrow in the bottom right corner of that tool, and then release on Paint Bucket. And then make sure, like, give it a color that's opposite to your edge line that you selected in Maya. I'll hit OK. And then you'll click in an empty area with that layer selected. I'm going to lock this layer as well. All right. And then what I'll do, let me put this to the side for 1 second. I'm going to open up the tutorial um, 3 folder, and I'm going to just drag the box um, open, please. Oh no, Photoshop, please don't crash. Okay, I have a rainbow swirl. 1 second. Oh no. Okay. Oh, there we go. Whew. Okay, here we are. So I dragged it open into here. I'm gonna Command plus, Command T to scale, Control T if you're on a PC. Sometimes I might not uh, give the option. Just note that if I'm saying Command, chances are your PC version will be a Control. I'm gonna Shift. I'm gonna select and actually Command Z. Shift select and drag on a corner to uniform my scale. And because I have this in the middle, I can kind of see where things are lining up. It's better to go slightly outside the corners because you don't want a slight pixel of white to appear on your textures. So I'm going to go up, left with my arrow keys, and I will just go ahead and just scale it on one axis at a time just so I can see where things are. So I'm just dragging on, the middle, the bottom middle uh, transformation pin. Just going a little on the outside here, and this is perfect. I'll hit enter, boom, and then with this layer selected, you can click on V to go to the select tool, or you can click on the move tool here. Alt, click and drag is your hotkey for this. And I'll release the Alt key and drag to where I want this to be. And then I'll use my arrow keys to adjust accordingly. And then Alt, click and drag here. And since these are all the same size because they're squares, I don't need to scale them anymore. Once I adjust one, the others are adjusted too. You can always just double check to see if things are outside of the lines or not. Alt, click and drag. Move this. There we go. And then the next one, Alt, click and drag. Good. Alt, click and drag. And again, I just adjusted based off the arrow. So I'm going to Command minus. There we go. I'm going to turn off my UV layer so it doesn't ingrain into the texture. We don't want that wireframe embedded into our texture color, especially when we start using, there's more edge lines cutting through the UV shells, like when we work on the can. So I'm going to go to File, Export, Export As. We'll do a PNG in this case, but turn off your transparency layer. So I'll go to PNG, turn off my transparency, because what ends up happening with a transparency layer, a transparency map will turn on when you add a color to the color file, but then a file will be added to transparency in your box, which is weird. We don't want that. And then I'll hit export. This time I'm going to change this to box color. Ooh, I can totally, not ox color, box color. Export. There we go. And I'll save this into the source images of tutorial 3. I'll hit save and minimize this. I'm going to go back into Maya and I'm going to turn off, I'm going to go back to general now and select, oops, there we go. And I'm going to go into object mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I'm going to delete my history, edit, delete by type, history with the object selected. And then I'm going to add a new material. So just not do the whole dissertation so much here, but remember any object by default when we add it into our scene, whether it's the cone, the torus, cube, sphere, cylinder, yada yada, has this default shader, this default gray, and this is called Lambert 1. So Lambert 1 is everything has that shader. So if we add this box file to Lambert 1, the problem becomes that everything else that we add has that box color. So instead of making this Lambert 1, we need to add a new Lambert, link it to this object, and make it Lambert 2. So to do that, I'm going to hold down my right mouse button and release while this object is still selected, right? Release on assign new material. I'm going to release, and then I'm going to select Lambert. And so now when this happens, we'll get this new material. I'll name it box shader, box material, boom. And then because we're adjusting the hue of this object, so the color, instead of, just doing one color swatch here, we're going to add a file link to this. So all of these options here allow us to add either presets, right, a ramp, a gradient, or a file in this case. So I'm going to click on the checkerboard right beside color or along the slide bar to color, and I'm going to select it. And then this pops up. I'm going to select file. When I do that, boom, this node pops up. So this allows me to connect this to this object. So I'm going to click back in. I'm going to click on the folder icon here to look for a specific folder. Boom. And since now I'm in the source images because I saved my scene and my project accordingly, because that's what you're supposed to do, I'm going, oh, I didn't save my, okay, let's try that again. I think I saved it in the wrong project folder. So let's try that again. Assume that I did this correctly. Da, da, da. Oh, because this tutorial, 1, 2. Yeah, we are on tutorial 3. Sorry, where did I save this? I'm so sorry. Let's pause this. Pause. Okay, sorry. For some reason, it went to another tutorial 3 but was not able to be located. Okay, so I just resaved it. So now I'm gonna click on the folder icon. Take 2. There we are. Box color, and I'm gonna hit open. And if you're wondering why, Laura, my box isn't showing, this box isn't showing, fear not, because we don't have our texture preview on, which is either you can select it here where my mouse is circling this little checkerboard circle where it says textured, or if you press 6 and then back to 5, 6 to 5 turns on my checkered, my texture preview. 5 is smooth preview or a shaded preview. 6. Okay. What? So there we go. And obviously we have some, like, if we wanted to keep consistency of where the angles of the box crates are going, so this diagonal here, I mean, we would go back and, readjust accordingly. But since this is a crate, we're just focusing on making sure it looks like a crate. This shall suffice. So I'll move this to the side, and this is one. You can do an export of this. So to do that, I'll give this a plane, or scale this this way, bring this down, and scale this way. Okay, bring this up. So then I'll turn on multi-sampling anti-aliasing, and then I'll turn on screen ambient occlusion. So this adds a little bit of ambient shading down here at the bottom to give some separation with the default lights. So then I'm also going to turn on my resolution gate, boom, or my film gate, and then I like just ensuring that my render settings are correct. So I'll click on the render settings icon here. This window will pop up, and then I'm going to switch my render using to hardware 2.0. I'm going to scroll down to where it says image size, and I'll click on presets, and I'll do HD 1080 and close. So then I'm going to render the current frame. My render view will pop up. There we go. And I'll save the image. File, save image. This should be saved under the images tab. So look at this. This is correct. Box color. So, box render. So last name, first name, tutorial 3, render A. And make sure colored manage image is selected. Raw ends up being a little darker than what you see in your render view. So I'll hit save, and that's the first half of tutorial 3. I will see you all next class, or I'll make the second part of the video soon. So just want to let you know.